everybody to close your eyes. Imagine it's 1935. You're eating lunch outside on the cool concrete steps of your schoolhouse. You are discussing your weekend plans with your two best friends. You're talking about everything, up from your triple date this weekend or your big history test coming up, to even how your sister Anne has really been getting on your nerves recently. You are suddenly interrupted by, close your eyes, you are suddenly interrupted by the shrieking screams coming from some of your classmates. You turn to see a group of men in uniforms and you think to yourself, these must be them. These must be the Nazis coming for me. As you are ripped off the stairs and dragged away from your friends off to a place you seem to have never been before, you think to yourself, what will my normal life look like? Open your eyes. Could you imagine this? Could you imagine a time where men, women, and children, some of your family members, friends, and the people that you know, or even yourself, are targeted, stripped of their rights, and murdered simply because of who they are and what they believe in? The Holocaust was a traumatic, state-sponsored genocide resulting in the murder of over 6 million Jews. Government policies and discrimination were used to target these big groups of people. Today, in my speech, I will give us a chance to dive into history that may need to be touched up and that we have not learned about for years, witness tragic stories, some untold, and strengthen our history while also looking at how the Holocaust still affects our society today. First off, the history. Why did it start? As some of you might know, after World War I, they faced many problems. There was economical crisis, high unemployment, and many other problems coming from World War I. So the Germans, aka Nazis and the Hitlers, looked for someone to blame the country's problem on. They decided to blame it on the Jews. According to Michael Berman's 2026 article, Holocaust, published by Britannica editors, the Germans called this the final solution to the Jewish question. The Germans' belief was that if they killed the Jews, there would be no problems in their country. No Jew, no problem. So the Germans created things like concentration camps. These were places that were deceptive. They held places and things like gas chambers. And they were even a little tricky and sometimes known as a break from poverty and the rough life. You can see why the Jews may have been confused, worried, troubled, and ultimately just scared. So, as I have a timeline here, this is ultimately the big picture of every event that happened throughout the Holocaust. And although I'm hinting at each of the smaller events throughout the Holocaust and what I believe is the more important events, we know that then the Allied armies came to help the Jews break free. So, now that your background knowledge is up to date on the Holocaust and freshen up, let's talk about some of the unseen events. Today, I'd like to talk about Henia Breyer, a girl of the age of 17 to 18 while the Holocaust was taking place. According to Henia Breyer's A Holocaust Survivor interview produced by BBC News in 2013, Henia states that while in concentration camps, there were shootings and hangings, and there was no crematory there, only a hill where they used to burn people, and all the ashes flew over us. As similarly stated in BBC News, in the article written over an interview with Henia Breyer, she stated that when arriving at her last camp, Bergen-Belsen, she saw a huge mountain of bodies, partly decomposing. Wow, gross, right? Henia Breyer saw more as a 17 to 18-year-old girl than most people will ever see in their lives. She's going to have these memories in her brain haunting her forever. Think about this. As her brother was killed, which was mentioned in the article that I read, her family was stripped away from her time after time, and she was going through these concentration camps. She was holding on to the fact that maybe she did have a future, that she could go to college, find a husband, settle down, and start a family. All of this was stripped away from her when the Holocaust happened. After touching up on prior knowledge of the Holocaust and learning about some of the unseen events, like how Henia Breyer's life was affected and many others were affected, let's talk about how people are still affected today. Is the Holocaust still an impact today? In Joan Da Silvia's article, The Seashore Dream, produced by the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, Joan hopelessly remarked, "How I tried to reach out to the outside world but couldn't make it." Joan is an example of how one lives after this tragedy. She goes on talking about that she has this reoccurring dream over and over. And although she refers to it as a dream, I think it's more of a nightmare. She hears these people in her dreams talking about the Holocaust. She sees these events over and over, and she is just simply reminded of the Holocaust day after day. According to the global impact of the Holocaust produced by global nations, the Holocaust had a profound impact on international human rights law, resulting in the United Nations adoption of foundational documents in 1948. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the Convention of the Prevention and Punishment of the Crimes of Genocide. To sum this law up, it means that our society will never allow something like this to happen. I think that brings me ease. After approaching past history and knowledge of the Holocaust, as well as looking specifically into the unheard truth of Penny Breyer's life, we were able to see how the Holocaust affects people as well as society even today. In conclusion, exploring the history of the Holocaust, uncovering lesser-known events, and examining its lasting impact, this provides a deeper understanding of why this tragic period must be remembered. It allows individuals to revisit a significant moment in history, strengthen their knowledge, and become aware of some stories that may have never been told before. It highlights the impact that this event has even today. The Holocaust was a traumatic death of over 6 million Jews. Government policies and discrimination allowed for these people to be killed in large groups. Imagine a world where millions of individuals, maybe you, your friends, or family, are persecuted, stripped of your rights because of who you are and what you believe. What if you were in this situation? Could you imagine this? How would you live through it?